Good Monday morning. Thanks for joining us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Alicia Lewis. This morning, Vance Boelter will face a Hennepin County judge for the first time. His state case is happening just over a week after he pleaded guilty in federal court to killing Melissa and Mark Hortman. Our Audrey Russo's at the courthouse with a closer look at this case.
The state proceedings begin a little after 1 this afternoon. The Hennepin County Attorney's Office is charging Vance Boelter with 8 different counts, including first-degree premeditated murder, which in Minnesota carries a penalty of life in prison without the chance for parole. Now, you may remember a little over a week ago, federal judges handed Vance Boelter 2 life sentences for the assassination of Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, and for the attempted killing of Senator John Hoffman, his wife Yvette, and his daughter Hope. So why would state prosecutors want to take up the case? Well, Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty notes that state sentences are not affected by presidential pardons. We spoke to a former U.S. attorney about that additional layer of punishment.
It is true. And that is one of the reasons why I can understand why state prosecutors like county attorneys and attorneys general don't want to rely on Donald Trump's administration to achieve justice in this case.
Now, the state's case also tacks on some additional charges like cruelty to animals for the shooting of the Hortman's dog, Gilbert. There's an additional attempted murder charge related to Representative Kristen Bonner, who you may remember was targeted but not attacked because she wasn't home at the time. And also there's a charge for impersonating a police officer. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you. Right now, a man is fighting for his life after a shooting in the North Loop over the weekend. It happened just after 2 a.m. yesterday. This is video from the scene near 3rd Avenue in Washington. Minneapolis police tell us they followed a car from the scene to HCMC and found the man who had been shot. Investigators are working to figure out what led up to the shooting. No arrests have been made. Today, crews will head back out on the water to search for a man who went missing in the Mississippi River. Ramsey County officials say they got a call Saturday night. Rescue crews are searching for him around Hidden Falls Park. Officials say right now it's a search and recovery operation. Well, just days after threatening massive new attacks on Iran's civilian infrastructure, President Trump says new peace talks will start today. Saturday, the president said the U.S. was locked and loaded and ready to go, but that he agreed to cancel attacks subject to being able to rapidly make a deal. It's not the first time President Trump has backed down after escalating threats. NBC's Chris Pallone has details from Washington.
Will these new negotiations finally end the war that has now lasted more than 5 months, or is this once again a case of history repeating? President Trump says negotiations between the U.S. and Iran to end the war resumed today. The announcement comes just 2 days after he threatened massive new strikes against Iran's civilian infrastructure.
We'll be hitting them. We'll be hitting them very hard. And, at some point they're going to say, we just can't take it anymore.
But the president said Sunday U.S. allies in the Middle East, fearing more Iranian attacks against them, asked the U.S. to hold off.
But when the allies asked to call it off, we got to sort of say, well, let's see. And the reason they asked is I think there's a deal.
The back-channel diplomacy worked really hard to convince President Trump to give a chance for diplomacy again.
The president said the U.S. was poised to conduct its largest military strike since World War II. Hours earlier, U.S. embassies recommended Americans consider leaving the region. Since the war began in February, this is at least the 4th time President Trump has threatened to escalate attacks on Iran before calling them off. Democrats skeptical that anything has changed.
He's trying to get us back to February, and I think if he could, if he had a big reset button he could hit, he would certainly take that option.
We're ready to go anytime we want. Would I rather make a deal? I'm not looking to kill people. People die, a lot of people die. We don't want that.
The president says there's no deadline for negotiators to reach an agreement. And despite what the president said, a spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry said this morning no talks are currently taking place with the United States, and said earlier the regime will not back down in the face of threats. In Washington, Chris Pallone, NBC News.
This morning, the FBI says 7 more states are reporting cyber attacks on their water systems, and that includes Michigan and now North Carolina. It comes just days after hackers targeted more than 30 systems across Minnesota. Federal investigators say they believe Iranian hacking groups could be behind the attacks. President Trump, however, does not agree.
There was a cyber attack of 30 water plants, and I would blame it on Minnesota and the governor, the corrupt governor of Minnesota. They like to say, oh, it was Iran. Iran should be so lucky. Iran's got bigger problems than worrying about Minnesota.
A law enforcement official tells NBC News the Minnesota attacks had all the signs of Iranian involvement. Governor Walz responded on social media saying, quote, Trump knows exactly who's responsible for this attack and knows that other states were hit too. This is what modern warfare looks like, and it further illustrates there's no plan to win a war with Iran. State officials say the attacks did not contaminate any water supplies. An update this morning out of Washington, officials say more than 60,000 people are under evacuation orders as wildfire levels homes across Spokane County. Here's cell phone video of a couple escaping the Miter rock fire on a boat. Crews say right now they're fighting 3 massive fires there. More than 600 structures have been destroyed. No injuries or deaths have been reported, but officials still say the size of the fires means it's going to take time to fully assess the damage. And here in Minnesota, Superior National Forest officials tell us that crews are fighting a new wildfire there. They say the small fire was sparked by lightning. Meanwhile, officials also say they're reopening entry points to the Boundary Waters tomorrow. It's part of phase 4 of their reopening plan. Most of the eastern BWCA will be open and parts of Central will be open for day use only. The western Boundary Waters and the area around the Little Knife Fire will also stay closed for now. Well, this week, more than 100 people experiencing homelessness at Pig's Eye Park will be forced to find a new place to live. In 2 days, St. Paul leaders are planning to clear out the city's largest homeless encampment. Jessica Hart has more.
So St. Paul is clearing out all of its homeless encampments, and it's starting with the largest one. And that would be over at Pig's Eye Park, where hundreds of people live. They're going to do this on August 5th, so organizations are doing what they can to try to help people in preparation of moving. One organization, the Tommy Project, drives more than an hour once a week to the encampment. They are handing out extra naloxone and providing extra food when they can. Union Gospel Mission is also there every day. They used to be there every other Friday, but now they're there more consistently. They say on August 5th, they're going to be having vans ready to take people to their shelter, but the problem is there just aren't enough beds. So they're going to do what they can. If they have to, they'll put extra cots in their chapel so people can have a safe place to sleep at night. I'm Jessica Hart. Follow along for more news.
Well, a year after a catastrophic flood, a St. Paul nonprofit is now reopening its doors. Starhouse hosted an open house yesterday for the community to see its brand new crisis nursery facility. It will offer overnight care for young children whose families are going through emergencies. Organizers say the facility offers safe beds, home-cooked meals, clothing, and a home away from home for families that need it. Starhouse initially launched its overnight services in 2024, but a flood last year forced the facility to close.
It's really vital. Our families need the help. This can be the step that, keeps the family together, keeps them resilient, and really just gives the parents a break so they can, keep being the great parents that they are.
Starhouse's new building is even bigger than the one they previously had. They're going to start accepting families this Friday. Well, sometimes all it takes is $5 to change someone's day or even change their life. And that's the idea behind a local organization that's making giving back easier than ever. Audrey Russo has more in this morning's Communities That Care.
Tackling poverty is a big task for even the most helpful hands. Unless those hands
Bingo.
belong
Yep.
to Shane O'Rourke.
That's exactly right. You have no excuse. It's so easy. Click a button, change a life.
That's the motto driving his crowdfunding charity site, Lift Up.
So we just needed a bridge to be able to connect all the dots.
The dots began in 2014, plotting the course for a Bethel University junior to travel a world away to Haiti.
I met an 8-year-old boy named Kenzie who was kicked out of school because he couldn't afford a pair of shoes.
A $5 fix
He was back in school the next morning.
gave Shane that big goal.
Like, if $5 can change a life, we need to build a platform where people can do that.
Lift Up launched 4 years later, raising money for causes overseas. But just a few years in, Shane's macro mission
But I've just noticed there's a huge
need
locally.
a microscope.
There's a lot of people skeptical of charities.
Convincing people to give meant focusing dollars on Minnesota. Since 2024, Lift Up has partnered with local vetted social service agencies.
We do interviews, we do reference checks, we check their 990 forms.
And unlike other crowdfunding sites, only those vetted agencies can post a campaign. Lift Up handles the purchasing.
We're not sending dollars out to our partners. We're sending items.
Brand new items headed to partners like My Health in Hopkins.
All right, so this is our medical clinic.
Clinical Director Connie Robertson gets the fun job of giving donated items to the young single moms she serves.
Everything they get is a hand-me-down. How exciting to be able to get something that's new. Crock pots, knives, spices, the little things that you and I take for granted are really important for basic daily living.
Small acts of kindness that allow anyone to see the impact in their own backyard.
We make sure everything on here is under 1,000. We don't want it to feel like only the big fish can give.
Shane traveled far and back only to prove that giving can go big.
What might feel small to one person
and go home
is not small to another.
In Hopkins, Audrey Russo, KARE 11 News.
We thank Audrey for that story. Hey, stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.